Because some people are like anti, like kids and content and all that stuff. And I'm like, but they've always been content.
Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get right into another video. So today it is the turn of It is the return of Jonathan Joly, and he just can't stay away. He can't stay out of the news. We covered him a few times last week, saying after he decided to take his YouTube videos down, delete them all, because he'd had this revelation that his kids should now be able to shape their own future. They should be able to tell their own story going forward. But he just can't stay away from the controversy, which is good for me because I get to talk about him again, which is becoming my latest sport. So if you're all interested in my opinions, please stick around and we will see if we can uncover some truths together. So in the last few days, Jonathan has been on both his YouTube channel, trying out his new live stream feature, which he is going to be doing as a regular. I think he said that's the way his channel is going to be going forward, doing live streams. He's also been live on TikTok, which was eye-opening. He had some TikTokers go on there and ask him questions, and I came away from it quite impressed and quite like just with a newfound respect for him. He gave people, his so-called haters, a platform to ask him questions. He actually encouraged the opposition, if you like, to come on and have a chat with him and ask him things and discuss things. So they did. So that was...
they're not pigeonholed towards anything. I think occasionally your enthusiasm and acceptance towards your child has almost looked a little bit, and this is a hot take and quite an extreme one, has almost looked a little bit as if, were your child to then say that didn't align with them anymore, or they align with something different, that might be a problem because they're getting a lot of attention, a lot of praise, which is good. But then what if that gender identity doesn't align anymore? What if something changes? What if, might your child then, in the way that cis children might feel very much like, who are actually trans, forced to stay cis, what if your child then feels so pigeonholed in a certain way that they lose the ability to express themselves in what's, intrinsically right for them, and rather it just becomes what gets them extrinsic praise or what seems to be what dad wants?
It's a good point. I put a safe gate in place, but I can't explain to you what it is because it doesn't involve me. It involves a third party that talks to Edie about these, things, because I was like, I want to make sure that she understands that if this is a phase, which I don't think it is, it's you.
I don't think it's a phase. That's not what I mean. I just mean she needs the opportunity to figure it out, because good Lord, it takes people long enough to figure out whatever it is. I don't think it's a phase at all. I'm glad that there is a third party involved. I think that's commendable.
But third party is not something we talk about and not something we discuss, and because we're making TikToks. You know what I mean? We're just making fun videos where she was getting attention, and yeah, I suppose I hear what you're saying, that like you make it too appealing to not confuse me, but I can't. I think all the kids are home. There's another part to that story that, we can't talk about for another few years until another person can tell their own story, and then that'll bring to light what we're not doing, but then I can't force someone to talk. You know what I mean? So it's complicated, you know. But then I open Pandora's box.
But what he's done since then, he's undone that good work, that good PR, if you can call that PR, by the way, because not all his questions were answered favourably for him. But he put up a post yesterday. I took all my YouTube videos down because I thought it was the right thing to do, but now I'm getting so much pushback and I'm not sure what to do. Will I put them all back? So I don't know if this is a rhetorical question or if it's something he's seriously considering doing, but apparently he's had time to think and probably looked at his YouTube statistics and thought, where is all the money gone? Why am I not getting paid anything for my videos now? And the reason is because the videos have gone. But the thing we're going to cover today, he had a radio interview on radio, obviously, because where else would you have the interview? And he was asked a number of investigative questions, shall we say. He's put the radio interview up on his own channel, so to explain to people why he deleted his YouTube videos. And unfortunately for him, it's raised more questions than answers. Firstly, John, I would say, why did you agree to this, given your previous experience with mainstream media, the Stacey Dooley stitch-up, as you called it? So you didn't think that this might not work out for you again? Or were you better prepared this time?
Now, for some years, Jonathan and Anna Saccone Joly, originally from Ireland but now living in the UK, have been among the world's biggest vloggers. Most of their output has involved family life and raising their kids, but now they've stopped and deleted thousands of those videos from YouTube. Jonathan joins us now. Good afternoon, Jonathan.
Hey, I'm good.
There's a few things to talk about, I suppose, but we'll start with the videos. How many did you delete and why?
Well, it was 12 years of videos, so it was a lot. It took a couple of days. It wasn't a quick thing to remove them all. I just mainly top line it. It's just the internet is not the same place as it used to be. You know, I'm not the same person as I used to be. You know, when I was doing all the press for the book back in January in Ireland, I had said that on all the TV shows and stuff that I'd done. I'd said, like, I wouldn't do YouTube today how I did it back in the day. And oddly enough, I was just listening to the news there, and they were talking about difficult children, and I was kind of nodding away here thinking, yeah, that's all ahead of me, you know. And that's the thing, you know, we're heading towards, you know, we have a 10-year-old now, you know, and things are different, things are changing, and we've been parents for 10 years as well, so we obviously will do a lot of things different now than we did before. Our two youngest kids are the age that our two oldest kids were during the peak of when we did YouTube, and I just think it's not, you know, it's not the same, you know, it's not right to do it anymore.
Right. Okay. I mean, do you mean in the sense that I suppose maybe perhaps people were a bit more innocent when all this started up and we didn't think about...
Yeah, I think we were too, you know. We were like, you know, this was like it just kind of like took off without us really thinking about it, you know. We went from like barely making rent to just skyrocketing, traveling the world, and it just kind of took away itself, and there was no time. And I think during COVID, about every decision in life, everyone had a moment to kind of like readdress. And, you know, I turned 40 during that pandemic, and I kind of just like, I don't know, my opinions have changed, and I look at the internet now and so much misinformation and toxic opinion and
toxic opinion. Now, you are referring clearly there to the fact that people now have more of an opinion on your channel than back when you started. I can understand why that would be. People weren't as clued up back then as to the dangers of family vlogging and monetizing your kids and selling your kids. It wasn't as, it was more innocent then. People didn't know, but now they do, and they're giving you a lot of grief for it. But you can't understand the grief that they're giving you, or take it on board, or the reasons why it's happening. All you're seeing is that it's now more toxic, the internet, and that is a problem for you. Obviously, you don't want to bring your kids up in a toxic environment, I presume, but you're redressing the wrong thing here. You don't understand the reasons why it's apparently so toxic to you.
And I just think, like, I don't know, it's not the same thing anymore. So I definitely wouldn't do that anymore.
I assume then that over the years, you've had some degree of pushback, you've had criticism.
Yeah, well, we were public, we went through some of our biggest parenting trials in the public eye, so that was definitely challenging, to say the least, but I don't regret anything we did. We did it. It was a thing that people did during that time. We started YouTube in 2008. If you think about 2008 compared to 2022, the internet evolved a lot. People's opinions evolved a lot. Everyone was like celebrating and clapping us. So what you do, you just keep going because public opinion is saying, hey, go for it. This is cool. We enjoy this. And you're like, okay, sure, I'll just keep doing this. And everyone around us is like, yeah, sure, you should do this. And we're like, okay, until...
See, what you're doing there, John, is you're giving reasons why you've done what you've done, the reasons why you've carried on doing your vlogging. At the beginning, you were getting a lot of praise for doing what you were doing. People were applauding you for doing what you were doing. They were watching you and making you happy, and you were making them happy, and you were just getting a lot of praise and attention and just encouragement to carry on, which is kind of what happens a lot in everyday life. People do that. If you are getting positive attention, you carry on doing because you think you're doing the right thing. But what you're not doing now, John, is you're not realizing that those reasons do not excuse your actions. It may be a reason, but it's not an excuse for what you've done. We can all understand the reasons why you might have started, why you might have carried on doing it, but you're given it as an excuse why you've done what you've done. You're not taken on board. You're not saying, now, that was the reason why we did it. We shouldn't have done it for that reason. We shouldn't have sold our kids, and if we were to do it again, we wouldn't do it again. But that's not the case for you. You're saying you would do it differently now. You're not saying that you regret doing what you did. In fact, you've said the opposite. You don't regret what you've done.
You start to feel like, I don't know if we should do this anymore. But then there were so many people depending on us to keep doing it. They were kind of like, all right, I'll keep doing it,
So in precisely in what way, Jonathan, did that change from the everybody thought that it was a good thing?
It's just the nature of entertainment, I suppose, or the internet. We all watched certain television shows that aired, during, let's say, in the 2000s, that if they were aired today, we would all go, ooh, that didn't age well. It's like,
I'm not entirely sure comparing yourself with a TV show is the best way forward, because I know that you like to think that you are the Saucony Joly show, and to an extent you can say that that's what you were, but how you differ from an actual TV show is you sell your kids and their privacy online for money. TV shows don't do that, and they're not allowed to do that. TV shows may have children on the show, but it comes with strings attached. Things like laws and rules and working time hours and guaranteed payments and protection and things like that.
That's the right thing to do, but you know, we're very more knowledgeable today about the dangers of the internet. You know, that maybe when it first started, you know, we were more like, oh, this is fun because it was so like niche, you know, making YouTube videos in Ireland in 2008. I was one of three people making internet videos, you know,
Mm.
so it was just so niche and it was so small, you know, and then within 5 years, you know, we had nearly 1 billion views and it was just like, whoa, you know, and it was just, you know, it's too much to comprehend, you know, that we just kind of went along with it
Mm.
until it sort of dawned that we're like, I don't really feel right doing this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and then
So are
yeah,
all the videos gone from YouTube?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I assume you have other social media platforms. Do you still have content up there?
Oh yeah, Instagram and TikTok and well, I don't do Twitter or Snapchat or Facebook anymore.
Yeah. But would would your kids feature in on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah, like I don't think there's any like you see, there's a big difference between having older children where they're more aware of their presence, you know, so it's like they kind of well,
I feel like it's like talking to a brick wall sometimes, though, because he honestly doesn't get it, I don't think, or he's just playing innocent or playing dumb, because he's continuously saying that it's the danger of online which is the problem. Now, yes, obviously it is a danger putting your kids online. That's the same can be said for everybody that puts their kids online, and for every child that goes online. There are dangers, but for him, as along with those dangers, obviously extra danger because he's a celebrity in quotation marks, but he's also putting them out and making money off them. That is the issue, and I don't think he gets it. Or he does get it and he doesn't care, or he does get it and he just ignores it, because at the end of the day his kids do make him too much money to have to acknowledge that.
because my kids are obsessed with making videos now, like short form videos on platforms that are popular with their age groups, and all their friends are like, oh, you should make, you know, so they come to me now more so, you know. It's
Right, let me stop you right there, because I'm getting a bit concerned here. TikTok is not popular with their age group. Your kids are 10 and 8. The minimum age to make a TikTok is 13. This is not the age group of your children. And secondly, their friends, whoever they may be, are not in the public eye. And if they do have TikTok accounts at their age, then they will be private and not be shown to the world. There's a huge difference. Why not, and here's a radical idea, why not make your TikTok account private and allow your kids to upload onto that, if that's what they want to do?
kind of like the tables have turned and I'm more the one saying, no, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, no, stop. I'm like, no, you've made too many. You know, it's like they're annoyed that we don't do YouTube anymore. They're like, oh, can we not fill the house with balls like we did years ago? I'm like, no, no, we can't.
Yeah. Because I assume some of the criticism, Jonathan, must have been that you monetized your own children.
Yeah, people said all sorts of stuff about us, you know, over the years. Like, we just did the best.
Okay, this sounds very, very much like you are evading the question. The original question was, some of the criticism must be that you are monetizing your kids. And your answer was, yes, people have said a lot of different things about us. You didn't answer the question at all. You just evaded it and went on. And as we're about to hear, you are going to go off on a tangent about something which is fairly irrelevant and more excuses.
That we could, you know what I mean? Well, myself and my wife, like, you know, we just, you know, there was no opportunities during that 2008 period when, you know, I graduated from university and we hit this recession and it was just no jobs. And I remember trying to get going in to get the dole, and then they denied it to me because I left the country to get my degree, and they said, no, you've been out of the country for a year, so you can't have benefits. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to pay my rent? They're like, I don't know, and then it was like, started making YouTube videos, and I got 60, 70 quid, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got a job, and then I would sit in my job, hate my job, but then I got £200, and then £300, and £400, and I did it for like 2 years, and eventually I made my rent. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy, and then it just kind of went from there, and now we're here, and I'm like...
So basically, he's deflected from the original question completely, and he's gone off to tell us how times were so tough for him back in 2008 when he didn't have a job and he couldn't make rent and he couldn't get welfare, and he was struggling so badly. But then along came this godly figure of YouTube, and the kids came flying out, and he could monetize them and made so much more money, and he couldn't believe it, and he was actually paying rent and everything. It was amazing. Times were amazing, and times were changing, and he was doing so well, so much money. And yeah, what was the question again?
I wouldn't do it again. I'm really happy that hey, look, timing was great, we got lucky, it worked out for us in a way, but I just feel like I just don't know if it's right anymore.
So what you're saying is, if the same situation arose now and you had no money and you couldn't pay your rent and you were close to being homeless and everything, and then YouTube came along and you had the chance to sell your kids to millions of strangers again, you wouldn't do it this time. You would live off the dole, and you would choose to be poverty stricken rather than selling your kids. Is that the morality that you feel now? Is it?
Yeah, because I suppose if you look back, and we're all geniuses in hindsight and completely moral people, you don't know if you're making a video with a child, whether the child is actually consenting to that or even can appreciate the ramifications of sticking something on the World Wide Web.
And like I said, now I have a 10-year-old. Yeah. And now I hear what she says to me, and I'm like, okay, wow, you guys are so aware of everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know. When I had a 3-year-old, I was like, okay, I got this. I'm like, no. Yeah. Now I look back and think, you had no clue. And as a 10-year-old, what they just said on the news pod there about having 15-year-olds is the worst. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was the worst. So it gets worse, does it? Oh.
I'm actually dumbfounded. I'm lost for words about the stupidity of the man. Absolute moronic answer that he's come out with here. Basically, the interviewer has asked him about the consent behind the kids. He obviously knows what he's talking about, this interviewer, and he's done his research into family vlogging. So he's asking the right questions about monetization, about consent, and Jonathan's answer to whether or not his kids could consent to their lives being put online is basically to say that he's now got a 10-year-old who is so aware of the internet. Firstly, let me stop you right there, John. Your 10-year-old, even at 10, has no way of knowing the ramifications of the actions that either she has done back then or that she's doing right now. She's 10 years old. She does not know how what she puts out online right now is going to affect her in 10 years' time. She can't know that. Her brain isn't developed enough to know that. I don't get why you don't get it. And then he goes on to say about how he thought that 10-year-olds were bad enough. This being a 10-year-old, having a 10-year-old is a difficult time. But then he reads about 15-year-olds being difficult, and he thinks it's going to get what? I'm sorry, but what exactly did that have to do with anything to do with the question? He's talking about coping with kids as they get older. That's nothing to do with consent. Fucking hell.
Okay.
It never stops getting worse. I can guarantee you that. When they're 30, it'll still be bad.
No.
But given what you just said there about YouTube, does the same logic not apply then to kind of TikTok and Instagram?
No, because it's not, it's a hard debate, because some people are like anti, like kids and content and all that stuff. And I'm like, but they've always been content, people are content.
I cannot believe you've just said that. You, Jonathan, have just undone every sinew of everything you've just been trying to achieve over the past couple of weeks. You're trying damage limitation, you're trying to take your kids off YouTube, you're trying to make it seem like you care about your kids and that you're doing this all for them. And then you come up and say that some people are against kids on YouTube. Some people are against kids as content. But kids have always been content. People are content. But back up there, kids have always been content. Did you have any idea that that's what you were about to say before it came out of your mouth? Did you have any idea of what can of worms you were about to open? Your kids have always been content. And you've been claiming over the past weeks, months, that your kids were not your content.
You know what I mean? No matter what they are. I think there probably needs to be more safeguarding in place, you know what I mean, for when it comes to commercial content. Definitely there should be, like when we do a lot of commercial content, we do tend to get a third party involved so that there is a chaperoning in place, just like there would be in film and television.
See, now I'm confused. You're saying that the internet should be regulated in the sense that commercial filming of kids should be regulated and to safeguard children that are on the internet. But you're responsible for that. So you're saying that they should be safeguarded and that it should be regulated. We need to regulate against the employers, which in their case is you.
If you're going to work with young people, and I feel like the internet isn't regulated in that sense. But then I'm not the one who's saying people shouldn't do things because I did it. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I spent 12 years in that space, and I look back at that space now and I think, okay, listen to me. This is what I've learned over those 12 years. There's a lot of areas that could be improved upon, and there's a lot of areas that are okay. And we're not shaming anybody for making TikToks, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever it is. If that's your livelihood, if that's how you make your rent and pay for your life, go for it.
Yeah.
People have the freedom to make an income. But when it comes to the commercial end of things, sometimes, and I've been privy to conversations, because I've traveled the world with this stuff, and I've been a big player in it, and I've heard people talk about, you know what I mean, the alluring of overexposing, and and I've walked out of meetings from people trying to push me into doing more child-led stuff, even though it makes more money, and I'm like, but I can't do that because I can't agree with that.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the Adley videos?
I don't think so.
No, but she's like her dad is a big player in social media in various strands, but she makes these videos where essentially she's playing with her parents, but she's 6. And there's hundreds of them up there. So this is pretty much a full-time job for that little girl. And
yeah, that's where...
And 6-year-olds love it. I have a 6-year-old who loves it, but you're kind of looking at that going, whoa, Yeah, that's what I mean. If through my catalog for the 12 years that we made videos, we never did child-led content. For that very reason, I don't
I don't agree with it. But then it's really hard for, people to think about, what do you mean he doesn't agree? But he makes them. Like, I don't. I make Jonathan and Anna led content that featured the children that, hindsight, half the catalog should have never gone up, but we did it. And I'm standing over the fact that I did it, but I deleted it all now, because I'm trying to say, okay, all right.
Now, this annoys me. And if you've been watching my recent videos on Jonathan, you'll understand that I've mentioned it so many times. And I personally think it's a big thing. And it should be taken more seriously. Okay, I can understand he's removed. John, you've removed your dubious, shall we call it dubious, videos, the things like bath times and stuff like that, which is good. Don't get me wrong, it's very good. Obviously, they should never have been filmed in the first place, but it's good that they've gone now. But you say that, but on the other hand, and some people might say that this is obviously not a big deal compared to filming your kid in the bath. Filming your kid in their school uniform over and over and over and over again, showing where your kid goes to school, it goes against everything you're trying to do in safeguarding your kids. It is ridiculous, and I implore you to sort it out. I don't think you're taking it seriously. You do not put your kids in school uniforms, in videos, in TikToks, in Instagram. You've done it loads of times since you've taken your YouTube videos down. Almost every single day, there's a picture of your kids in their school uniforms. Now, that is wrong. And it's leading people to your kids where you can't protect them.
I feel that maybe that's what I'll do now. Maybe I'll use my voice to try and leverage the change that I feel that needs to happen. Because if a regulatory body comes after creators and says, hey, you can't do that anymore, that's not really fair. But I feel like I know where the problems are.
Now, coming to this decision, and I assume it's the two of you who came to this decision, was that somewhat informed by, I suppose, maybe during the pandemic, having more time to think? Also, you did mention earlier on your book, All My Friends Are Invisible, where you write about coming to the conclusion that you're gender fluid. Does all that kind of feed into this decision?
It's non-binary, not gender fluid.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
But,
Actually, sorry, Jonathan, and but I don't know what the difference is between those two things.
Read my book.
Okay, but for the people listening, Jonathan, who mightn't read your book, what is the difference between those two things?
I no matter how I answer this, I will be told I'm wrong.
Okay.
This is what I have learned. Okay, so we leave it up to your listeners to establish that for themselves. If they are non-binary, they will know.
What on actual earth are you going on about? The guy wants to know what the difference is between gender fluid and non-binary because he genuinely doesn't understand what it means, what either of them means. So he doesn't know. And that's fair. Not everybody do know. So why are you treating him like he's stupid? Why are you telling him to go and read your book if he wants to understand what the difference is between the two things? If you can't explain to us what it is you are without us having to read a book about it, read your book about it specifically, no, we're not going to buy it. Well, I've already bought it, but everybody else is not going to buy your book to understand what the difference is between the two because you don't have the wherewithal to explain to them what the difference is.
You know, they don't feel like a boy or a girl versus feeling like a boy and a girl.
Right. Okay.
That's
gotcha.
Basically, that's all I can do without hanging myself somehow.
Right. Okay. No, that's fair enough. And I wasn't trying to be smart or facetious. It's
no,
just
I know that.
But
I'm very aware of how everything I say gets twisted. So I'm just trying to be cautious.
Right. Okay. But coming to the conclusion that you were non-binary, was it kind of something that you kind of, when you realised, you thought, I've always felt this way?
Oh, well, Yeah, like that's what the book is. It's basically me from 3 years old to 14 years old, and I kind of, something, when you're a kid and you've got no friends and your life is pretty sad, and then you realize that you're kind of tired of living a sad life. So one day you decide, I'm going to pretend to be the kind of cool kid, the kind of kid that's not sad anymore. And then you do that, and then all of a sudden you're popular. And then you're like, hey, this is better. I'm gonna keep pretending to be the kind of person that people like, and then that's fine. And then 36 years later, my mind decided that I could no longer hold in all my emotional trauma and all the things I hadn't dealt with. And in an airport in 2016, it decided to explode in my head, and I had a panic attack, and that's how the book starts, and it's just like coming to terms with that. And then, I think that, like, me ending the videos, there could be, somebody might say, a psychologist or someone might say that the reason he's deleted all the videos is because Jonathan never made those videos. That was one of my projections, and making the videos was a way for me to further conceal myself, but that's looking very, very deep into making YouTube videos.
And also as well, is this also related to what's happening with Edie now?
Taking in the videos, or
and your own conclusions.
Kind of is, because 2 years ago I had 4 cisgender children to my knowledge, and I was living a traditional, normal life, and everything was fine, and then it established that was not true, and now I have a transgender child, and it's a whole new world that I don't understand, and it's a whole new world I'm learning. And we have support groups and therapy, and we're trying to learn and trying to best support her. And also, as a parent, I feel really bad about the fact that we let that run for 6 years. She's 8 now and she's really happy, but for the first 6 years, she had gender dysphoria, and she was really confused and really sad. And as her parent, I feel really bad. And then when she felt it was safe to talk, involving third parties to help mediate, to give her a sense of safety, she was telling us that, it's been like this for her whole life, and she would cry herself asleep, and she had no friends, and, and then we're like, oh my God, what have we done? And I'm like, I need to fix that. And then you look around, you're like, oh my God, I'm so public. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? That's why about a year or so ago, we kind of stopped making YouTube videos. That was like step 1, stop the habit. And then step 2, erase the habit.
Yeah. How do you make a living then now?
Just a mixture of different things. I do like consulting stuff, and just different kind of stuff. I've been in this business for 14 years, and I've made a lot of connections, and a lot of people value the fact that I've been on the internet for 14 years with a career. I understand how it works. I've seen platforms come and go, and I help a lot of other creators, and I help a lot of brands understanding how they, because it can be quite a scary place for people to come onto the internet and understand it, and it's, being a 40-year-old in the internet, you're almost like a great grandfather, with your knowledge base.
Jonathan, thanks so much for speaking with us today. That was Jonathan Joly there. We'll change the tone a wee bit.
Well, that was bloody hell. That was quite some effort from John there. He surpassed everything that I thought he was before, and it's become so much more than I thought he was, but not necessarily in a good way. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and join me again tomorrow for another video. Thank you again. Bye bye.